Alright, so let's start talking about visibility in Kotlin. So before we were just making an instance of our apartment, we're passing in values into the constructor, and it will assign those values to the properties that we define in the class. Sounds correct. But let's start thinking more realistic, in a realistic scenario type of thing, in real world application. So apartment has all these properties, but when we use dot notation with apartment, you're able to see all the things that are currently, or all the properties and methods that are currently inside of apartment. In a real life scenario, that's probably not a good thing. You don't want things to be so visible, right? Because I can just go in, I can pick apartment.tenants, I can make this equal to map of, and now I have no idea who are my tenants, because now my tenants are going to become an empty map. Now all my tenants, I got to go door by door and figure out who's who, and that's not a good problem to have. So one way to fix that, as I erase this, is to change the visibility of our properties. We can go into apartments, and there are 4 modifiers, visibility modifiers in Kotlin. There's public, which by default, if you don't specify a modifier, then everything is public, which is visible to everything from everywhere. And then there's private, which means that it's only visible where it's declared. So as you guys can see, that there's this tenant's property declared in the apartment class, and right now by default it's public. But if I set this to private, now it's only can be seen, or it can be changed from within this place that is declared, which is the apartments class. But if I go into my main and I try to do the same thing as I did before and use the dot notation to try to see properties to change, tenants is not available. I mean, I can still print out tenant. I mean, I'm still passing in the value for tenant, which is this map of Luke Skywalker. But if I run this, right, and I have no access to tenants, but I can still see what's going on in the background based on the information that I passed in, or the data that I passed in from the constructor. But I just can't change it after, because I can't see it after. I don't want it to be visible because of, it can be changed for malicious intent or even by accident. So then that is private. You only want to be seen from where it was declared. But then you have another thing. See, if I make one of these private, and first of all, first rule, you can't make an open property private, because then the subclasses won't be able to see it. So that kind of defeats the point of making it open, because it will only be seen from the declared class. So that means even if I'm inheriting from building, if I'm trying to make this private, it won't see it. So Kotlin just telling you, yeah, nah, that's not a good idea, it's incompatible. But there is another modifier called protected, which means that it can only be seen from within the class that it was declared, as well as subclasses. So it's not blocking it from apartment, which is a subclass of building. But now if I go and try to do the dot notation again, and I made owner protected, so if I try to get owner, it's not there. It's not letting me. I don't have access. It's protected. So visibility. All right, you got to think about the different scenarios of how you want things to be seen in your application, and different scenarios on, what do you want users to be able to touch. And in this case, I might want to create my own function that checks if that person is actually valid to change the ownership to somebody else. So you just got to think about that. All right, so the last visibility modifier is internal, which means that it's visible within the module. And we talked about modules a little bit in my first Kotlin tutorial. Module is just in Kotlin is just a set of Kotlin files compiled together. So that can be Maven projects, Gradle sets, IntelliJ modules. Those are all modules, and they're compiled together. So really, on a realistic setting, unless you're using modules or playing around with modules, you won't really use this modifier too much. But I just wanted to provide you guys context on what it actually does. And if you do, then internal, if you only want it to be seen within the module, then internal will be used. So okay, we have public, which is by default, everything is public in Kotlin, and it's visible from everywhere. Then we have private, which can only be viewed from within the class. And then we have protected, which is viewed from within the class or where it's declared, and the subclasses. So if I make something protected in building, apartment is inheriting from building, so I can see it from here, but I can't retrieve it from anywhere else, or I can't set it or retrieve it from anywhere else. And then there's internal, which is visible within the modules. So you can just literally put, let me see, instead of private, I can put internal. You just put the internal keyword and it's visible from only within the module. So yeah, I mean, it's saying right now that it's recommending private, but I just want to show you guys how